Hi everyone, this is a tutorial video on how to create a textured landscape using a landscape photo and then a texture found from that same location in Photopea, which is a free web-based photo editing program. So you will see ads popping up on the right-hand side because that's how they pay, and we're able to have it for free. So the first thing I want to do is go ahead and open up my first photo. So I'm going to find my landscape photo. So I'm going to go to File, Open, and then I will find my landscape photo that I am interested in using today. And it's great to use a landscape photo or photos today of a place that's you've been to before, a place that's important to you, one of your favorite locations. This is from a hike that I went on in Oregon. So I am going to use this photo for my background. And then I'm going to be adding texture on top of it and using the blending modes to play around with that texture and decide how I want that to look. I can also use adjustment layers to adjust some of the brightness and contrast and colors. So let's go ahead and add both photos to start. So if I go to my layers panel, you can see I have my background layer, and now I'm going to go for this time. I want both of these to be in the same file. So I'm going to go to File, Open, and Place. And what that'll do is it'll place my texture layer of my ferns in the same file, but on a different layer. So now you can see I've got my ferns here and I've got my main photo here. And the ferns are on top of this, and I don't actually need this layer one, so I'm going to delete that. The ferns are on top of the background layer. So if you click on this little eyeball, you can see that it turns them off and on. And right now you can't really see that, but I could also change the opacity of this layer so you could see through it a little bit. So I could even just keep it simple like that. Or I can also play around with the blending modes. So I'm going to go ahead and change that back up, bump that back up to 100%, and just show you how the blending modes work. So right here where it says normal, blending modes are kind of hard to find. But if you click on this little arrow where it says normal, these are different kinds of blending modes. So there's just fun ones that you can kind of play around with. So it looks like the overlay will actually put the fern kind of into the background. You can also what I recommend is just kind of playing around with which ones you think look the most interesting. So I am going to go just through this, and I think that one's kind of cool. I also had an idea of adding an adjustment layer to my background layer. So I'm going to try something here. I'm going to click on my background layer to make sure it's highlighted, and I'm going to click on this little circle that's half white and half black down at the bottom to add an adjustment layer. And I think I want to try to add an invert adjustment layer. So what that does is let me turn my fern off so you can see. It makes the whites in the photo black and the blacks in the photo white. And then all the in-betweens are kind of inverted as well. And so I think what that'll do is kind of make the texture go on top of the landscape a little bit more. Let's just see how this goes. Kind of just wanted to play around with that. So you can also, that one's kind of cool. You can also go and add other adjustment layers. So I could click on my fern and add an adjustment layer and maybe change the hue and the saturation. So let's just try that and see what happens. That little layer is blocked, that panel is blocked. So okay, there we go. So I could change the hue. So if I wanted to edit the colors a little bit and maybe make that more of a bluish color, I could take down the saturation to make it more of a black and white, or I could bump it up and make it really bright if I want to. I can also change the lightness of that fern. So if I wanted to kind of play around, actually that's changing all of it. So you can see that's changing both of my layers. I actually want this hue and saturation just to adjust my ferns. And so if I hover and click in between the little icon here and the photograph, if I click on the Alt or Option key and click, oops, that's not what I wanted to do. I want to do that on this layer above so that it only is going to affect the ferns now. So it only affects the layer below it. So now I can play around with that a little bit more without worrying about it affecting my background layer, which is kind of cool. So I actually kind of like that. I think it's kind of you can still see the landscape, you can see the rocks in the foreground, but it's got this really beautiful fern texture. So I am happy with that. And so I'm going to keep that for my textured landscape for now. If you wanted to turn off any of your adjustment layers to see what it would look like that's pretty cool too. If I wanted to take that, get rid of that invert and keep it a little bit more realistic looking, I could do that as well. So I don't know, I kind of like both of those. Yeah, I think I'll keep it on this just to make it a little bit more, have it a little bit more unique. So when you're ready, you'll go up and you'll say File, Export as, JPEG, and then that should be saved. Once you click on Save, that should be saved in your downloads on your computer. I hope you have fun creating a textured landscape, and yeah, thanks for watching.